Sometimes the challenge with leadership is we don't know what it's supposed to look like. Or we think we know what it looks like, and then we go by what it looks like or what we think it looks like, and we realize what's happening here isn't leadership. I mean, it looks right. By that I mean, many people think that leadership looks like the right label on your shirt. You've got the title, you've got the name badge, you've got the authority given you by the almighty metal tag, right? Or it looks like the guy with the suit coat and the tie and the cufflinks and all the power and influence. Or it looks like the gal who shows up in the Bentley and she climbs out with her beautiful heels and her hair done and her nails done and her jewelry blinging, and you think that's the leader, that's the person in charge. They've got all the look of someone who's made it successful. They've got all the influence of the rich and the powerful, the rich and the famous, as the old show used to be. But the challenge that we find with leadership is sometimes it doesn't look like that. Sometimes leadership looks entirely different, with no glitz and no glamour and no fame and no immediately visible rewards at all. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I want you to think about a time that you've seen someone do something that seemed out of the ordinary for them. I mean, maybe you know wealthy people, super wealthy, uber wealthy people who mow their own yard, as an example. People who could easily afford to pay somebody else to come in and take care of the landscaping issue, but they prefer to mow their own yard. Is that leadership, or is that just a rich guy doing his own work? But see, sometimes you see people who, if you knew them in their regular day job, you'd think, wow, that's definitely a person of influence. That's definitely a person of leadership. They're absolutely in charge. But today, they're digging ditches. Or today, they're on the mission field. Or today, they're serving food at the soup kitchen. I remember back in the day when I worked at corporate America, every year at Christmas, and sometimes at Thanksgiving, all the C-level suite people would actually come down to the cafeteria, and lunch was on the house. The company paid for lunch, and everybody who worked in that building would process through the line, and the executive leadership team, VPs, CEOs, etc., would serve their lunch to them. And for many of them, that was a humiliating, or at least a minimum humbling opportunity to have to serve the people who work for them. For a few of them, it was obvious that this was their chance once in a year to get face-to-face with people they didn't see on a regular basis, because after almost 10 years working in corporate America, this one particular company, they actually put glass doors at the hall that went to the C-level suites. Now, for many years that I worked there, about 7 years, you could actually just walk down that hall and schedule a meeting with somebody by talking to their executive assistant. Now you couldn't even get in that hallway. The elites became even more elite. The closed off, the inaccessible became even more closed off and even more inaccessible. So to see them in the cafeteria serving a meal, that was a big, big deal. Is serving a meal leadership, though? Are they doing a leadership thing when they come out of their high-end lofty castles and they come down with the serfdom of everyday employees? And I don't know that that's leadership. I mean, it might be a leader doing a menial task for a day, but is it really leadership? Now, today I am going to be doing what I do with the AV company that we run out in the middle of nowhere, downtown Dallas. I mean, right in downtown Dallas, in a food desert. Today we're partnering, tell it like it is partnering with a group called 50/50. And 50/50 is partnering with my grocery store, who has the objective of overwhelming the problem of food deserts all over the country, both in urban areas and far out rural areas. They want to bring job opportunities, fresh food, not junk food, and they want to bring people the opportunity to be participants in the grocery store chain, not just consumers of. And so the launch is today. Now, we're partnering with my grocery store, with Opportunity Centers for America, and also with an organization called Spokes for Hope. So we'll be out there providing AV support, video cameras, microphones, sound systems, and interviewing some people, hopefully. But we're also going to be out there with Spokes for Hope, who will be bringing young kids who need a bicycle together with police officers who will give them a bicycle. So today we'll give away 50 bicycles. 50 police officers will give them to 50 families in South Dallas so that we can have a chance to engage the community. And we're going to talk about the community. We're going to talk about the food deserts. We're going to talk about job opportunities. We're going to talk about how to get engaged with the community on a more positive note. And in my opinion, that's what leadership looks like. Leadership is not always sitting in the high and lofty office making a big decision. Sometimes it's getting right out there in the street and doing those things. We'll be serving some hot dogs, serving some hamburgers, meeting some kids, spending some time with them. But this isn't a one-off project. This is an ongoing project. You've probably seen other stuff on my Facebook and my website about the events that we've done with Opportunities for Centers for America. We spent several months training veterans and others who wanted to be truck drivers, how to drive across the country, sat in the front seat of the cab with them for 90 days. Walking through that process. Here's what you got to do. Here's the legal restrictions. Here's the expectations. Here's how we get a load from here to here. Here's how you spot a vehicle. All the kind of training that you would need to do that job. I did it. I sat in the front seat of the truck with them. Look, you may think you're a leader because you have the title or you have the badge. You maybe have even heard, and I know you've heard me say, if you've listened for any period of time at all, you've heard me say, don't be willing to ask someone to do a job you're not willing to do. If there's a task, if there's an assignment, if there's some grunt kind of job that has to be done within your sphere, don't just hand it off to somebody until you've done it. For two reasons. Number one, you can't be the authority in it until you've actually experienced it. You don't have the authority to tell somebody how to do a job until you've actually done that job. Until you understand what the task requires, what the physical, emotional, psychological demands are of that job, you don't really understand the job. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an expert at it. I'm not even saying you have to be the best in the world at it. What I am saying, though, is that you have to have experienced it at least once before you try to delegate it off to somebody else. You should take the time as a leader to get to know the roles of everyone who serves under you or with you. I believe that's an obligation. But I also believe that leaders should take the time to get out of their high and lofty places and spend more than one day a year getting to know the people they work alongside, the people who serve the same goals and objectives that they do. It's not easy. 8 hours in the sun today, that will be my assignment. 8 hours in the sun, meeting a bunch of people that some of them I'll know, but many of them I've never met before. That's the assignment. That's what leadership requires for this organization. Opportunity Centers for America, My Grocery Store, 50/50 Spokes for Hope, Tell It Like It Is, for us to grow to the next level, that's what it requires. For us to have more influence around the country, that's what it requires. And that's not something I'm willing to delegate to somebody else. I might ask for help. I might even take an intern to say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. Next time, maybe you get to do this. But I won't delegate it off to somebody else having never done it myself. And I challenge you as leaders, ask yourself, what does leadership look like? Does it only look like sitting in the office with the tie and the coat, or sitting in the office with the nice pantsuit or dress suit on and giving orders, barking orders at everybody else? Does it look like the shift supervisor? No, it doesn't. Leadership looks like someone who's willing to do the work that needs to be done at whatever level it needs to be done at. Somebody who's willing to put in the time, to break a sweat, to bend the knee, to do the work. That's what leadership looks like. Maybe it doesn't look like that in your world right now. But if you're a person of influence, if you're the leader in your organization, let me challenge you to get busy changing the way people see leadership by being engaged at every level. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith